The Boys is not a parody. It is a satire. Based on the comic written by Garth Ennis and drawn by Derek Robertson, it used a parody of different superheroes like Captain America or Superman. But it did not stop there, because satire allowed it to attack deeper topics. Like the idealization we have of them, the comic was more of a satire towards other old superhero comics or movies. Marvel Studios had just started the MCU with Iron Man 3 years after the comic came out, and the Avengers did not arrive until the same year it ended. That is why its television series came at the perfect moment to make a new satire. Because the superhero genre was already saturated, Infinity War and Endgame had come out, and that same year, a breath of fresh air came to clash with this panorama. One of the strongest ideas in the series is what would happen if superheroes were real, and the answer to that question is the most realistic one they could give. In private, they would be a bunch of hypocrites and egotists because they think they are above ordinary people, just like what happens in real life with celebrities, and in public, the most useless ones would be used for commercials and TikToks, and the most powerful or skilled ones for military operations, all protected by large corporations or elite groups that falsify documents or blatantly lie to the population so that their puppets can act without consequences and keep the company's secrets hidden. The best point of the series, without a doubt, is demystifying superheroes, not just because of their actions, but because of what they are. Because even though they act like gods, they are not special, they are not born with extraordinary gifts, but instead they are injected with Compound V so that they develop superpowers. And the only thing they are, they owe to an artificial chemical. And although the context of the series is already good, a good story is nothing without its characters. The first episode of The Boys starts as if it were a superhero movie. Some thieves escape in a van, and some children are about to be run over, until Queen Maeve interferes and Homelander saves the day with a smile. But then we switch to Hughie, cleaning up Homelander's image, at a normal job with his normal life, and a normal day with his girlfriend.
Robin?
The story is not going to tell us about the depravity of the soups through the eyes of other soups, but through those of ordinary people who suffer the consequences. We will have moments where they talk to us about workplace harassment and topics seen from the inside, but Hughie is the one who receives fake apologies, therapies just to live with what happened and endure it, and who is not even capable of deciding for himself. We see it at his job when he wants to ask for a raise and does not do it. Or, the perfect example, when they want to give him $40,000 in compensation for his girlfriend's death, and he confronts the Vought representative, when in reality he was imagining it, and simply asks if he can think about it. Then he meets Butcher and finally makes a decision. He goes with him and gets involved. And that is when the boys get together to hunt the soups, making Hughie cross several lines that do not separate him that much from a train. And in season 3 they show that behind that good guy facade there was only a desire not to be someone weak, because they discover Temporary V, which gives you powers for 24 hours. And there he shows who he is, when he can become strong, and on top of that, without consequences, he does not care as much about the hatred towards the soups who killed his girlfriend. William is someone just as dangerous as the main antagonist of this series. He is introduced as the typical bounty hunter with a thirst for revenge, since the soups abused his wife and caused her death. He is obsessive and does not care about the methods, but he is not an anti-hero. His behavior and nature are violent. He loves getting into fights and always looks for a reason to do it. And although the truth about his wife is something that weighs on him and that he wants to avenge, it is nothing more than an excuse to justify his character. And he does not care who he drags along with him if that leads him to get what he wants. We see it not only with the boys, but with his former team. He has always been the other side of the story, the bad guy in a story who is actually good. But no, his character arc goes all the way to season 4, where we see him with schizophrenia and cancer, injecting himself with Compound V, turning him into another villain. Except this one is going to fight an even more unhinged bad guy and justify his actions as justice. Homelander, called John only once, is introduced in Chapter 1 as the superhero, the Superman, the most powerful one. And during Episode 1, he is the only one who really seems to have some conscience, who behaves like a superhero, even among them. But by the end of the episode, we see that he is not only bad, but that he is the worst of them all. From childhood, he was designed as not even the perfect superhero, but the perfect product, subjected to very harsh tests that would cause him disorders, distrust, and the need for maternal support, because he never had a mother, and validation from everyone, because he was a failure in the eyes of the doctor who created him. His character in the first seasons was already obsessive and controlling, besides committing the atrocious acts he commits, and being responsible for the abuse of Batchel's wife. But his whole personality would be based on not wanting to drop in the hero rankings, on being number one, the most loved by the people, and also because he sees himself as superior to them. And because of those emotional shortcomings, a man with the powers of a god submits himself to Stan Edgar, an ordinary human, because this second father figure has him under control, putting into his head that if he does not act the way Vought wants, he will lose all that love and popularity that the people give him. Curiously, if Butcher was the supposed hero who has a villain arc, Homelander has one that would be the hero's, becoming the boss of the company that mistreated him as a child and gaining confidence in himself. The thing is, he does not stop being a villain, nor does he stop feeling alone. That is why he will look for companionship in Stormfront, in Sage, in Ryan, and above all in If The Deep was a parody of the alpha male who created a Sigma man, Soldier Boy is the satire. Ben Gilman was someone despised by his father and decides to inject himself with V to become the great American hero. It was his way of convincing himself that he was a real man. That is why his character is full of ego. He seeks fame, power, and control. It is not a story about how power corrupted him, but about how power served to validate someone who was already corrupted. It is funny to watch him interact with a world where he does not fit in. He is racist, homophobic, sexist, but above all, he is the facade of wanting to sell the American dream. With every character you will see him brag about his achievements or about who he has been with, and his personality is not only just as impulsive and lacking validation as Homelander's, but he is just as violent or even more violent than Butcher, making him someone who even commands Homelander's respect. The third season is amazing because Soldier Boy is a common thread through most of the plots, and there is one of the best fights in the series. They also reveal that he is Homelander's father, and when the family is reunited, Soldier Boy gets rid of the resentment from his youth, passing his father's words onto his son, and returning to Homelander, finally exploding in front of the people, killing an innocent person in front of everyone, and they applaud him, releasing this emotion that all this time he could have simply been himself and they would have loved him anyway. Season 4 is where many people start to see the decline, but I don't think so yet. It is true that it is weaker than the previous ones, because the characters start having stranger attitudes, like Starlight getting angry with Hughie for sleeping with someone who can change shape and had deceived him, when she herself has also been the victim of abuse. And it seems that the whole season is in a state of continuous construction of plots to reach the end, where it seems like nothing moves forward and the characters have the script on their side so that nothing happens to them. However, it does move forward and makes us interested in seeing where a train ends up, who understands what it means to be a hero and that he has been screwing up this whole time, giving us the real image of a superhero in the world of the boys. The death of Hughie's father, which is a magnificent scene, and the huge ending mixed with Gen V, where everything seems to be going to hell, with the boys captured, Homelander with power in the government, Butcher doing his own thing, and with powers added to the 2 seasons of the spin-off, where we are introduced to a heroine capable of taking down Homelander and a virus that can kill all the soups, all to prepare for the end of the series. Although Season 4 was a bit of a letdown and Gen V is not particularly well written, Season 5 only had the mission of putting together the pieces they had built so far and giving a satisfying conclusion in the tone of the series. It does not start badly with the fate of our protagonists after the kidnapping, what the world is like, and the ending of a train, where I expected more redemption for him, but it is a realistic ending, because by doing the right thing this time, he dies alone and unseen at the hands of someone who is much more powerful than him, but with the truth on his side. From here on, Butcher's villain arc and his schizophrenia disappear. He reunites with the boys, who look at him a little badly for having taken out people who could have helped in the previous season. But soon, we have all of them working to find V1, which turns out to be what the first generation of superheroes, like Soldier Boy, were injected with. A different V that made them immortal, and the whole season will have that feeling of a continuous state of the plot searching. Both good guys and bad guys. For this V1, while developing plots like Sister Sage's with Ashley, Kimiko trying to imitate Soldier Boy's powers, Annie and her family, the tense relationship between Black Noir and the Deep, which ends with Black Noir dead in a rather stupid way, and Homelander's god complex wanting to form his own democratic religion until episode 6, where Soldier Boy gets the V1 and gives it to Homelander, surprising both the characters and the viewers, because it is what Stormfront, whom both father and son fell in love with, would have wanted. Leaving for the penultimate episode, instead of a preparation for the confrontation and the final resolution, a collection of jokes that go from satire to parody, and the death of a character cut short, because Homelander should have gone through Frenchie, and it was not shown, like the thousands of things that Amazon, ironically, as the company they caricature so much in the series, has decided to cut, giving us a poor season build-up to reach the end. The Boys concludes with Homelander threatening all of humanity on television, only for 5 minutes later to have one last battle where they take away his powers, and he gets beaten up, humiliating himself and dying in a panel, copied directly from the comic. Afterwards, Butcher will also die at the hands of Hughie because of spreading the virus that kills the soups, and everyone will live a normal life, with Hughie setting up the store where it all started together with Annie, and with no trace of Soldier Boy, to set him up for a spin-off, showing that although this series has given us great moments, and I will remember it fondly, ironically it died like the soups in its story, adulterated and exploited by a big corporation.